All right, we're live. Cool. All right. It's been a minute since we were last live. I'm messing with my light here a little bit. There we go. Yeah, life has been kind of crazy, and so took a little hiatus there for a little bit. I think it goes as far back as take some time on vacation with my wife, and then man, just life happened, and now we're here. So uh, it's actually really difficult to think about what's happened in the last several months. Everything's moved really quickly. There was some health challenges in there. Uh, my daughter had a birthday, and so that was a new and crazy challenge. And then we had a couple of weddings that we attended, and one that I was actually officiating. And so, man, a lot of things happening all at the same time. And man, just excited to jump back into things here. So I'm going to move around my windows a little bit so I can see. But today we are going to be looking at Genesis 18, maybe all the way to 21. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We are still in the story of Abraham, and we're going to detour a little bit to the story of Lot and then come back to Abraham. So we'll start off with the three visitors. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abraham looked up and saw three men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. He said, "If I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, do not pass your servant by." Or eyes, Lord. "Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat, so that you can be refreshed and then go on your way, now that you have come to your servant." "Very well," they answered, "do as you say." So Abraham hurried to the tent to Sarah. "Quick," he said, "get 3 seahs of the finest flour and knead it and bake some bread." Yeah, let's just quickly bake some bread. That is 36 pounds or 16 kilograms of flour. Wow, that's a lot of bread. Then he ran to the herd and selected a choice tender calf and gave it to a servant who hurried to prepare it. He then brought some curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared and set these before them. While they ate, he stood near them under a tree. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "There, in the tent," he said. Then one of them said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, "After I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure?" I think that lowercase Lord probably refers to Abraham. Then the Lord, all uppercase, said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child now that I am old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, "I did not laugh." But he said, "Yes, you did laugh." When the men got up to leave, they looked down toward Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him, or will use his name in blessings. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him." Then the Lord said, The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so grievous, that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. In the Masoretic text, the Lord remained standing before Abraham. Then Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Or forgive the city? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right?" The Lord said, "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Then Abraham spoke up again. "Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5 people? If I find 45, he said, I will not destroy it." Once again he spoke to him. "What if only 40 are found there?" He said, "For the sake of 40, I will not do it." Then he said, "May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there?" He answered, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." Abraham said, "Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there?" He said, "For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it." Then he said, "May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there?" He answered, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home. Interesting. So God shows up and just starts chatting with Abraham. Abraham is a pretty good dude and prepares a meal for them. A very hefty meal. A whole calf, as well as, 36 pounds of flour for bread. Let me see what that was. 36 pounds. Hey, cool, good memory. Pat myself on the back there. Quick, bake some bread. That doesn't quite go together. I guess if you're doing unleavened bread, maybe, but that's kind of. Let's just quickly bake some bread. I don't know why that's funny to me. But Abraham gets directly told by God, "Hey, in 1 year you're going to have a son." And Sarah is laughing. And she says, "I did not laugh." And I believe Sarah means one who laughs or something like that. And she's already been renamed Sarah, and so she's kind of like self-fulfilling prophecy right here. It's kind of funny. And so God is showing up. They're using the uppercase, like, formal Lord title here. When you see that, it's referring to like to God himself. And so we're starting to carve this picture of a human-like God that is showing up. And there's also, let's see what it says at the beginning here, because I want to get this right. The Lord appeared to Abraham, but then when he saw them, there's 2 more men that will be going with him. And I think we're going to see in the next chapter that they're some sort of angels or something. Sorry, fixing my hair here. But these spiritual beings are showing up on Abraham's doorstep, and so he does the only thing he can think of and becomes hospitable to them, which I think is going to play a part in the next chapter as we look forward towards Sodom, which is where Abraham's nephew Lot is living. Well, Lot's living, he started living just outside of town, at least. We'll see if that's still the case. And then he pleads on Sodom's behalf. He says, hey, I'm going to go destroy Sodom because the people have been crying out against it. Um, their uh, their evil ways are beginning to spread and harm people. And so I am going to confirm if that's true, and if it is, I'm going to wipe it out. Um, and let's see. He says, what if there are 50 people? And then what if there is 45? What if there is 40? What if there is 30, 20, and 10? So 6 times he pleads with God. 6 times it's lowered. Interesting. Usually things come out to around 7 with these things, but I wonder if there's a significance to the fact that it doesn't in this passage. Just a curiosity. But let's go ahead and jump forward to Genesis 19, where, spoiler alerts, Sodom and Gomorrah are destroyed. So here we see the 2 angels that were with God arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. So he's closer now. He's at the gate. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night, and then go on your way early in the morning. They said, no, we will spend the night in the square. Again, they're going to investigate. But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Similar sort of meal going on here. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. Okay. all the men of the city are just waiting for these angels to show up. Interesting. I think this phrase, please turn aside to your servant's house, that still implies that Lot is outside of the city. And so if Lot is still outside of the city, he hasn't moved closer, but he did build his house right outside of this city that is very well known for its sinful sort of practices. And as we're going to see here, Lot's going to experience that firsthand. So he says, or the men say, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. We don't get no angel booty around here too often. We want to hit that. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, no, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like to them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Lot's a little suspicious here. You're kind of missing the point. The point is that rape is bad. It's not like sex with these male-presenting angels versus sex with human virgin daughters. That's not the point here. Also, why would you do that to your daughters? A lot of commentaries say that this passage is about the lack of hospitality of the people. No, this is about rape. Rape is bad. And Lot, in his efforts to be hospitable and keep the peace with the men of the city, is going to allow his daughters to be raped in the place of these angels. I don't think that's better. Because they've come under the protection of my roof. The hospitality, I feel like, is secondary to the rape here. Maybe even tertiary compared to all of the other unlisted wickedness. I feel like it's just not the point. Good that you're saying no, don't rape the men, but definitely bad, even worse, that you're offering up your own daughters as a consolation prize. That is disgusting. Disgusting. No, I don't like that. Doesn't matter anyway, because the men say, "Get out of our way," they replied. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. Then they kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so that they could not find the door. The two men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against his people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." Yeah, makes sense with the fact how they're treating outsiders. I guess that's hospitality, but the fact that these dudes have been here less than a night, so for one meal, a couple hours they've been here, and already all the men of the city are lining up to do some sex. Yeah, okay, I'd say that this is starting to affect the surrounding nations. And Lot, even though he's an outsider, has parked his house right outside of the city. It's kind of like trying to walk the line between sin and righteousness, and it's not exactly how it works. Because if you're parking yourself right up on that line, did you really care about the righteousness? Like, come on. Alright. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. Even worse. He's oh gosh. It just keeps getting worse for Lot. Or were married to. They're either pledged to marry or they're married. I don't know, based on the translation. He said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. How much you want to bet these sons-in-law are from Sodom? With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. He's still hesitating. Oh my gosh. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please," lowercase lords. "No, my lord," or "no, lord. Please, your servant," Hebrew singular, okay. "Your servant has found favor in your eyes," again, singular. Come on, there we go. "And you," okay, same thing, thank you. "Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee there. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared." Still, again, compromising. The angels are saying, "Go to the mountains." And Lot says, I want to be a little more comfy. He said to him, "Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town that you speak of. But flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why the town is called Zoar," which means small. It's the small town. Alright. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. From the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities, and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. This this phrase right here, I've done a lot of research into why she became a pillar of salt in preparing for this. And I haven't really come up with any great reasons, outside of maybe it was an ecological sort of thing. This idea of looking back, I looked at the root word of that. It's almost like a longing, almost how Lot was like, no, we can't leave. We're hesitating, and they had to physically be led out of the city. Lot's wife is longing and desiring the comfort of her home. She looks back, and she becomes a pillar of salt. This word pillar is the Hebrew word for like a bastion or a stronghold. Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up because I think I want to make sure that we're getting this right. Let's go to Genesis 19 is what we're in, and let's see. Here we go. 1926. So this idea of looking back, and then she became a pillar of salt. So she looks back, and it's to regard, to consider, or show regard to. It's to show regard to. Like, it's not something that we say a lot in English. You can see that this word is mostly translated look or behold, consider, regard. It's kind of like like I said, like a longing for something. That's what that regard is. To consider, I think, is a great way of like, oh man, I want to go back. I'm considering going back. It's a great way to think about that. But interestingly, when we look at a pillar, this is the only time in the Bible that this word is translated as pillar. Most of the time, it's garrison. That's what it was. Something placed. A garrison is for like soldiers that are stationed. It's almost like a landmark is created. And I think, it's like a post, a military post, or a statue, that sort of thing. And I think that idea of a statue is usually what comes to mind. There's a lot of theories about this ecologically, and it's kind of like the salt. There's a reaction of the salt from the sea and the sulfuric acid that turns her to salt, or there's some sort of in the disaster she's turned into basically she's consumed by salt. Like there's a large pile of it around her, which I think is maybe a more likely translation, but I don't know. And then this word for salt is just salt. There's nothing deeper there. And so, actually, let's look. I'm just curious. Other times that it's literally just salt when you look at other passages. And so she looks back, she's considering it, and she becomes a pillar of salt, like a monument of salt is a good way of thinking about it. So it's almost like a piece of remembrance, almost like a large sign or tombstone or something like that, some sort of monument to say this is where Lot's wife looked back. But again, mostly question marks. This is all just theories. This is one of those frustrating things in the Bible where in our American culture we want to have the answer to everything, which is oftentimes really great. You can learn a lot out of that motivation. But you also have to be okay with not having all the answers. And this is one of those question marks for me. So, if you know of any good resources, I'm open to it. All right. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Interesting. He's remembering Abraham, not remembering Lot. We did get those dual kind of mealtime things where Abraham kind of honored the Lord, Lot not so much, with offering up his daughters. And so Lot goes off to this small town, and we pick up his story. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains. That's interesting, Lot. Didn't you just say you don't want to live in the mountains? For he was afraid to stay in Zoar. It's almost like seeing your wife turn to a pillar of salt can kind of change your perspective on some things. Oh, yeah, great. We just narrowly avoided that. We literally barely avoided that. And because my wife was trailing behind me, she's dead. Okay, let's go to the mountains. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. Nice. One day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father." You can really tell that Lot getting so close to that line of Sodom has really had an impact on his family. Like, he was already hesitating to leave. His wife looked back. His daughters are now saying, hey, we are looking at the example of our father who was offering us up to be raped. And, it's the custom all over the earth. We're not following what God is saying. We're following what the surrounding cultures are saying. We need to make sure that our family line is preserved. So let's rape our father. This is kind of a dark story. And Lot's not innocent in this either. He's allowing himself to get drunk. They get him drunk. Sounds like he wasn't too opposed to that. And the older daughter went in and slept with him. And then the next day... okay, I'll read. That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. He was aware that he got drunk, though. The next day the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, Rachel and Lot, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up, but he was aware he got drunk. Come on, Lot. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites today. And the younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites today. Moab means from the father, gross. Ben-Ami means son of my father's people, again, gross. Ammonites, Bene-Ammon, or Ben-Ami. Not the most safe for Sunday school story, needless to say. This is messed up all around. They're wanting to basically live in a city of sin, but say, oh, we're going to live right outside of it. It's like those people who are like, oh, I'm going to go minister at a strip club. I'm like, all right. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. Yeah. If God is doing something, maybe, but I feel like handing out leaflets to strippers is maybe just, egging on your temptation. It's not smart to get that close to the line. And then when Lot starts getting a little depressy, he starts getting drunk, and his daughters take advantage of him. Because I mean, if you're drinking, you know you're drinking, and he's not concerned with having too much to drink. He probably is aware of these customs, and even though he's not aware of the sex that's happening, he should probably be like a conscious and clear-headed father in this situation. I would not be concerned with getting drunk right now. I'd be concerned with the well-being of my daughters. I'm sorry. That's... What? And the fact that the daughters were obviously influenced by the cultures directly around them, it's just... It's not a good look, Lot. It's not a good lot. Not a good lot look. Not a good look, Lot. And it's easy to see why God spares him on Abraham's behalf and not his own. And I think this is kind of where we leave off on the story of Lot. It's kind of in this sad, dark place. Like, this is what happens when you get this close to the line of sin. It's very easy to tip over. All right. Genesis 20. Abraham and Abimelech. Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." I feel like we've been through this already. In Egypt, perhaps? Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not gone near her. Hey, that's even more hospitable than the people of Sodom. So he said, "Lord, you will destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And didn't she also say, 'He is my brother'? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die." So he doesn't touch her. That's good. It's much better than the people of Sodom. Abraham also skirting the line here a little bit. Come on, man. You tried this once and it didn't work. Come on, coward. Just say she's your wife. I might cut that out. I don't need to call the father of many nations a coward to make my point. I think you guys get it. Early the next morning, Abimelech summoned all his officials, and when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you, that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." And Abimelech said to Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, "I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God had me wander from my father's household, I said to her, 'This is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother.'" Come on, man. I get it. Like, the family tree, we're keeping it in the family. Not something that we do in the modern day. But you know that you're skirting a line here. You know you're deceiving these people. It's not exactly the best image for someone who's supposed to be a prophet on behalf of God. Then Abimelech brought sheep and cattle and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah, his wife, to him. And Abimelech said, "My land is before you. Live wherever you like." To Sarah he said, I'm giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. That is about 25 pounds or 12 kilograms. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you, and you are completely vindicated. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves so that they could have children again. For the Lord had kept all the women in Abimelech's household from conceiving because of Abraham's wife, Sarah. Interesting. So we see a lot of hospitality from Abimelech here. That is not deserved because Abraham is being deceitful. And then even says to Sarah, I'm giving your brother, wink, wink, I know he's your husband, 25 pounds of silver to cover this offense. Even though he didn't do anything wrong. His hands are clean in this. And it's interesting that the thing that the Lord does is keep them from conceiving because of Sarah, who has not been able to conceive up until this point. But I think as we move into Genesis 21, wink, wink, we see the birth of Isaac. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. Isaac means he laughs. There we go. There's the laughter. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. And she added, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. The child grew and was weaned, and on that day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar, the Egyptian, had borne to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac. I think we already went down this path again. We've kind of come full circle with Abraham's story of we went to Egypt. We tried to pull a fast one on the ruler there. It didn't work. Sarah was unable to have children, so we bring Hagar into the mix to have a child, and then Sarah wants to send Hagar away. Fast forward a little bit, we come to Abimelech instead of in Egypt. We're now seeing a different ruler do the same try to pull the same fast one and get caught again. This time it's not Sarah who is unable to conceive, but the curse that is on the household of Abimelech is that they're unable to conceive. And now that Sarah is able to conceive, again, we are trying to send away Hagar. It's this full circle here. Even though the promise is being fulfilled, have Abraham and Sarah really grown very much? I don't know. Let's read. The matter distressed Abraham greatly, because it concerned his son. But God said to him, do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. Offspring meaning seed, literally. I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring. So God says, look, listen to your wife. Ishmael is going to be taken care of. Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders and sent her off with the boy. She went on her way and wandered into the desert of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went off and sat down about a bow shot away, for she thought, I cannot watch the boy die. And she sat there, and as she sat there, she began to sob. The child. Oh, it says the child began to sob in the Septuagint. Interesting. Interesting that she's going and wandering in the desert, much like Abraham's offspring will be soon. Also, it seems like God has some sort of plan, sending her off into the desert. It's almost as if whatever Sarah is going to do, because let's see. Yeah, whatever Sarah is going to do to her is going to be worse than if God just protects her by pulling her out of that situation. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Oh, yeah, we just read that. I cannot watch the boy die. She sat there, and she or the child began to sob. God hearing the boy crying, and God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from the heaven and said to her, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. When he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. Oh, kind of a happily ever after, fade to black moment for Ishmael. The treaty at Beersheba. Interesting. So she's in the desert of Beersheba, and we now cut back to Abraham in Beersheba. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, "God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me, or my children, or my descendants." Fair. Abraham just dealt falsely with him. "Show to me in the country where you now reside as a foreigner the same kindness I have shown to you." Abraham said, "I swear it." Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. But Abimelech said, "I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me. I heard about it only today." Interesting that a well of water appears for Hagar and Ishmael, and suddenly the one who dealt poorly with her is now missing a well of water. Interesting connection there that I hadn't seen before. I wonder if this well suddenly disappeared. It says it was seized. Let's look at that real quick. We're in Genesis 21. What's this word seized? Oh, here we go. Abraham complained to Abimelech because of the well of water which the servants of Abimelech had seized. This word, gazal, spoiled, taken away, robbed. There's a well. It's gone. How does a well disappear? What did you do to my well? God knows. God knows what happened to the well. So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech. And the two men made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech asked Abraham, "What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves?" He replied, "Accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well." So that place was called Beersheba because the two men swore an oath there. Beersheba means well of 7 and well of the oath. After the treaty had been made at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. And so we come up to the end of Genesis 21 here. And so as we end this arc of the story, we've kind of seen we've seen Abraham again being reminded that he's going to have a son. We see Lot and the consequences of moving to Sodom. We see Abraham again dealing poorly with Abimelech, and God rescuing Hagar out of the household of Sarah and whatever might have happened there. So what does this set of verses tell us about God? It's a very common phrase that we see. One of the names of God is, where is it? Is the God who sees. And that's something that Hagar, I believe, names for him. Was it in this passage or when she was sent away before? Or was one to be sent away? That's a great question. I cannot watch the boy die. Do not be afraid. Great nation. God opened her eyes. Interesting. Okay, so it must have been the previous passage that we see that. But I think the point still stands here. That God is a God who sees. He sees Hagar in her affliction and rescues her out. He hears the cry of the people who are being affected by Sodom, and then brings judgment on Sodom for their actions. He's even present with Abraham and kind of hears him out and goes through this back and forth of like, what if there's 45 people that are righteous? And God's like, look, I know there's probably not 45 people that are righteous, but okay, Abraham, there's 45 righteous people. God is a just God. He sees the affliction that's happening to people and remedies it. Now, what this tells us about people, I think people want to really ride that line of what's okay and what's not okay. We see that with Lot, literally moving just outside of the city of Sodom. We see that with Abraham, again, trying this ruse, Sarah's my sister. And with Sarah, again, not dealing well with Hagar, which, by the way, Abraham sleeping with Hagar is her idea. Abraham, not innocent in all this, still taking advantage and raping a slave, and not to mention all the things that happened with Lot and the angels and the men wanting to rape the angels and Lot offering up the daughters for rape instead. Like, oh my gosh, people are very poor at decision making when it comes to riding that line. And so I think what that means for us today, if we believe that this is true, is we need to not ride that line. We need to stay away from that line as much as possible. And so whatever that looks like for you or for me, staying far away from temptation and making sure that we're leaning on what God is guiding us to and not our own wisdom, I think is going to be very important. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad to be jumping back into our Through the Bible series. So please stay tuned for more. And if you're watching back on the recording, we have some more content for you right here. Thanks.